Hello campers, this is the Suburban Camper, and in this video I will take you through the remote power solutions I utilize while camping in my Chevy Suburban. I will cover off on energy sources, AC versus DC power, energy storage, power adapters, along with the various connectors I utilize with my power solutions. Before I dive into power, I want to remind you I will be sharing a great camping spot during this video. It will be a quick slide featuring a photograph, three-word description, and the coordinates, so be on the lookout for that. Also, I want to thank subscriber John B. for pointing out the fact that you could not see the coordinates at the bottom of the slide when you paused the video, so I've moved them to the top. Thanks, John. First and foremost, I am not an electrician or any kind of expert on power. Electricity is dangerous, so please read the manuals that come with your equipment and follow all the instructions and abide by all the safety warnings. Okay, my power needs consist of charging up device batteries and running appliances. Here are the devices I typically need to keep charged up. My iPhone, a still camera, video camera, GoPro video camera, headlamps, an indoor-outdoor thermometer, and occasionally my laptop computer. And these are the appliances I utilize, all of which depend upon weather conditions. A 12-volt fan, a 12-volt electric blanket, and a space heater. All of these, except the space heater, either run or can be charged up with DC electricity. So I will take a moment to talk about AC versus DC electricity. This is certainly a topic you can geek out on and in the process learn about Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison, but I will keep it simple and just relate it to what you need to know for this video, and you probably already know this. The electricity delivered to your home is high voltage AC power, and the electricity utilized in your vehicle is low voltage DC power. That's it. Okay, when I am camping in my Suburban, I have the following energy sources available. The first one is the engine's alternator, which generates AC electricity when the engine is running. The AC electricity is converted to around 50 to 100 amps of DC electricity to power the vehicle's 12-volt electrical system. Please note the alternator's output is just over 14 volts, so that is what your voltmeter should indicate when the engine is running. Next is the sun. We all love the sun, right? It's an excellent, albeit a bit slower, energy source, and you can capture its energy with a solar panel. And finally, my backup energy source is my gas-powered inverter generator, which utilizes a one-cylinder engine to power the generator, which feeds electricity to an inverter that provides up to 1600 watts of clean AC power. And just to put that wattage into perspective, my space heater has a low setting that draws 750 watts, and the high setting draws 1500 watts. So if I'm using the generator to power the space heater on high, it is pretty much maxed out. So how does all this work together to meet my power needs? Well, let's start with the power source I utilize the most, which is the engine alternator. It is a readily available power source that I take full advantage of when traveling by utilizing the mantra ABC, which stands for Always Be Charging. I use this energy source the most because I'm typically only spending a night or two at a campsite, so I'm frequently on the move, and before I take off, I make sure anything that can be charged via my Suburban's power outlets is connected. One of the great features of the Suburban is the multiple power outlets. There are two in the front, one for the middle seats, and one all the way in the back. Please note, the only one that worked for me for a while was this one, but then I replaced this 20 amp fuse and now they all work. These outlets typically offer 10 to 15 amps of power, and the key to tapping into it are the ubiquitous car lighter power adapters. These devices adapt the outlet power to a lower amperage, typically 1.5 to 2 amps, so your devices can be safely powered. Please note, most devices will further adapt the power input as needed. So if your phone requires 1.5 amps and you plug it into a 2 amp plug, it will adapt it to 1.5. Now let's do a little math. Let's say a power outlet provides 10 amps and you only have one device connected, say a phone that needs 1.5 amps. Then you're only utilizing 15% of the available power. So now you see why these power outlets are my go-to power source. You can fill them up and do a lot of charging, which is why you should invest in some double outlet car lighter power adapters. Here is how I utilize the power outlets in my Suburban. Up front, I always have my iPhone charging and I dedicate one of the two power outlets for this purpose. I use the second outlet to charge my thermometer and my GoPro camera. I use the middle outlet to charge headlamps and my phone while I'm sleeping. I use the rear outlet to power my DC to AC inverter, and then I plug in the power adapters for my still camera, video camera, and sometimes my laptop to charge up the batteries for those devices. I have talked about power adapters several times, so let's take a moment to cover off on that topic. You might think a device that plugs into an AC outlet is utilizing AC power, but most are operating on DC power. So that is the purpose of the power adapter, to convert AC power to DC power and adapt it to the amperage the device requires. Some devices, such as my GoPro camera, connect directly to DC power via a USB connector, and many devices can be charged up this way if they have a built-in power adapter. My still camera and video camera connect to my laptop via USB, and most USB ports on computers are capable of charging devices, but neither of these devices charge when connected. So that is why I must utilize their power adapters, and this is the main reason I need a DC to AC inverter, which is yet another power adapter. I utilized a 2000 watt DC to AC power inverter, and my initial thought when I bought it was this high wattage would enable me to tap into all the power my deep cycle battery offers. But then I did the math and realized, for example, once you convert the AC power needed to run a space heater to DC power, you're not going to power a space heater with a deep cycle battery. So I don't really need a 2000 watt inverter, and I may replace it with a much lower wattage unit, but for now I will just keep using it. There are two more power adapters in my setup. One is the power controller that is built into my solar panel. It regulates the voltage from the solar panel to deliver 12 volts of power to whatever it is connected to, which in my case is a deep cycle battery. The final adapter is the battery charger, which features a controller to regulate the charge being delivered to the battery to prevent it from being damaged. It plugs into AC power and delivers 4 amps of DC power to charge a deep cycle battery. Now 4 amps is quite low for a 100 amp hour battery, as it would take it over 25 hours to charge a fully depleted battery, but keep in mind I'm always leaving home with a fully charged battery, and as I will explain in a bit, I don't typically need to draw that much power from the battery. Okay, we have covered off on power adapters and the alternator power source, so let's move on to the next power source, which is the burning star in the sky. I capture a little slice of this power with a 20 watt solar panel, and its primary purpose is to trickle charge my deep cycle battery. I say trickle because it would take over a week of full summer sunlight for this panel to fully charge my 100 amp hour battery. But again, I'm leaving home with a fully charged battery, and I pretty much only use it to power a 12 volt electric blanket in the winter, and I just acquired a 12 volt fan for use in the summer, both of which operate at low amperage, around 4 to 6 DC amps. My practical experience tells me a fully charged battery will easily power my electric blanket for 2 nights without needing to be recharged, even with temps well below freezing, and I believe it can go 3 nights. So, for most of my trips, a little boost from the solar panel is all my battery needs. If I decide to invest in a 12 volt fridge, then I would certainly also invest in at least a 100 watt solar panel setup. Keep in mind, I always have the option of charging up the deep cycle battery by firing up my generator, plugging in my battery charger, and connecting it to the battery. And speaking of the generator, it is the final power source, which, like in the example I just presented, is primarily a backup power source. Just fill it up with gas, turn it on, pull the cord, and let the AC power flow. If I forget to ABC and need to charge up devices quickly, I just plug in an extension cord, connect it to a power strip, plug in all my devices, and let it charge them up in no time at all. The reason it charges everything quickly is it produces 13 amps of AC power, which converts to about 130 amps of DC power. And with each device drawing only 1.5 amps, I can charge a lot of devices. And how did I figure out this conversion? I utilized the batterystuff.com website's conversion calculator. Their website is a great resource to learn about portable power, and I highly recommend you spend some time reviewing their tutorials, as that is where I learned most of what I know about remote power. I hope you did not miss that last slide. All right, let's move on to energy storage. I will start again with my favorite power source, the alternator, and more specifically, its partner, the vehicle battery. In addition to providing power to the vehicle for things like spark that makes the magic happen, the alternator also sends power to the battery where it is stored and then used, primarily to start the vehicle, but also to power things like interior lights. Remember the math we did earlier that uncovered a lot of unused power? Well, now it's time to tap into some of that power. Please keep in mind, car batteries are designed to deliver high amperage jolts of power to start a vehicle, not to store and deliver power over an extended period of time. But there is extra juice you can tap into to charge devices when the engine is not running. I always keep my iPhone plugged into the vehicle power outlet overnight, and I've never had an issue with it draining the battery. Keep in mind, it is only drawing 1.5 amps, which is not that much, and I could probably charge other devices, but I try not to abuse this power source. If I overdo the charging and deplete the car battery, then I would use my emergency power station battery, which features a jump starter along with an inverter and an air compressor. And as the backup to that backup, I can also use my generator and battery charger to charge the vehicle battery. And as a backup to that backup to the backup, anyway, I think you get the point. I'm not going to get stranded by a dead battery. Next up for energy storage is my deep cycle battery, which I touched on earlier. I won't go into a lot of additional detail, as you can watch my deep cycle battery and solar panel setup video to learn all about it. I will just say my 100 amp hour battery is a quite heavy, but particularly good source of power. That's it for energy storage, so now it's time for the final topic, which is connectors. We all have a drawer like this at home, right? So many connectors. How do we keep them all straight? Well, here are the ones I use, and hopefully this will help you organize your drawer. USB Lightning. These charge up my iPhone, and it's only used by Apple devices as it's proprietary to them. USB Mini. This is a very popular connector, and in my case, they connect my still camera and video camera to my laptop for downloading, but again, not for charging. USB Micro. Also quite popular and seems to be replacing USB Mini. My GoPro camera and headlamps use this type of connection. USB Radox. Radox is quite common with AC power adapters, but not so much with devices. My thermometer uses this, but I wish it had a USB Mini connection to reduce the cords I need to carry. The male end of a car power plug. These are what the quite popular USB car lighter power adapters use. I also have this one to connect my inverter to a power outlet. The female end of a car power plug. I connect these to my deep cycle battery to power my electric blanket or fan, and to charge devices with the male car lighter power adapters. The MC4 connector. This is what most solar panels use to connect to the things they are delivering power to, which for me is the deep cycle battery. Okay, so there you have it. Those are my remote power solutions, which enable me to power up appliances to keep me warm or cool, and charge up devices to keep me connected, light the way, monitor the weather, and shoot video and take pictures for this YouTube channel. If you learned something from this video, even if it was just one thing, please subscribe. And if you want to learn even more about how to camp just about anywhere and be prepared for anything in a Chevy Suburban, or any vehicle for that matter, please visit my website, suburbancamping.com. Thank you very much.